Yesterday we got to Chaf Hey, 2525, which is on page 126. Okay, so here we go again. Top of page 126. Vayetze Arishon Admoni Kulo Kader Seyar. First one came out red, like a hairy mantle, completely hairy. Vayikru Shmo Esau. Everybody called him Esau. Everybody called him Esau. Hi, we snatched defeat out of jaws. Victory again, right? Yeah. I just saw the time that did they recover an onside kick right after they scored a touchdown or something? And then they got the 48-yard field goal. They managed to lose in overtime. There we go. Those are my boys. So, yeah, but my team won. And Kansas City won. So, yeah. So, if anybody accuses me of being a fair weather fan, I'll deny it and I'll sue you for slander. They all called him Esau. One of the reasons why everybody named, usually the father names him, right? Usually father. Why did they all call him Esau, and why does that name remain? So they called him Esau because we said yesterday he's completed, like he's like a fully fledged adult with a lot of hair. But what's interesting is, so why does his name never change? Page 126. Why does his name never change? Why does he continue as Esau? Usually, when does a baby named? Baby's named at the bris. A boy is named at the bris. So why does his name end up being Esau all along? I saw a very interesting explanation. You see, if a baby is not suitable for a bris because there's a danger, and one of the things the Gemara says is the blood hasn't been absorbed into his system completely. So if they use the bris, he could end up a chas v'sholom bleeding too much. So you can't do the bris. So it says that Esau, when he was born, he came out red and ruddy. So they couldn't do a bris on Esau. And then by the time they could do the bris, he wouldn't let them. So Esau was never circumcised. He ran away before they could do the bris, once he became an adult, so he wouldn't let them do a bris on him. So that's why it says Vayikra. They called him Esau when he was born because it was an anomaly. Hey, look at this guy. He's all completed like an adult. And then that name stuck because they never had a bris to give him a different name. That's what one of the commentaries says. So in any event, we said that he symbolizes completion. V'achar kein yotza achiv, his brother came out. V'yado ochezes ba'akev Esav, his hand was holding Esav's heel. Vayikra shmo Yaakov, he is named Yaakov by Yitzchak. The Yitzchak ben shishim shana b'ledes osam. Yitzchak was 60 years old. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've mentioned this many times before. There's a basic level of understanding, the pshat, the plain level of understanding. Then there's what's called, maybe a deeper level of understanding. And sometimes you get an idea, which is almost, you have to intuit the idea. Can't challenge it. You can't ask kashas. It's called drush. But I compare it to a symphony. If you have an ear for music, and you hear a symphony, you could appreciate it. And if you don't have an ear for music, I can't explain to you what you should be appreciating. If you have an ear for art, I could, if you say an ear for art, boy, that would be interesting. If you have an eye for art, right, so then you could appreciate a Rembrandt. I can't explain to you why you should appreciate a Rembrandt. I certainly can't explain to you because I don't have the eye for it. But somebody who does can tell a Rembrandt from a Goldstein. You could tell. There's a very big difference. And sometimes in Torah you hear an idea, and either you hear it or you don't, but they can't be explained. Okay? Now, the central theme of the Parsha here is going to be Yitzchak's confusion. There seems to be a certain amount of confusion in the relationship between Yitzchak and Esau. According to some, I'm just jumping ahead for coming attractions a little bit. According to some, Yitzchak was deceived by Esau. Esau convinced Yitzchak that he was a righteous individual, and Yitzchak fell for it. There's another approach that Yitzchak saw through it, but he was using a certain approach in order to hopefully bring out the best in Esau. In other words, he was playing Esau's game because he felt that will be the best thing. Seeing Esau's nature, he felt, okay, he could go to the bad over here, and the only way I'm going to keep him good is by playing his game. There are different approaches here among the commentaries, but on the approach that Yitzchak saw something good in Esau. What happened that he saw the good in Esau? Now listen to this. They come out with a hand on the foot. Esau's born, Yaakov's hand on the foot, symbolically that he wants to be the firstborn. And he's trying to hold Esau back, even as a baby, symbolically. And there are different explanations for that. What does Yitzchak see in that? Yitzchak, he doesn't see it. Yitzchak hears, the midwives say, hey, boy, that was a weird birth. He came out, the hand was holding the ankle. And Yitzchak hears about that. When Yitzchak, what does he hear in the hand on the ankle, the hand on the foot? So the answer, I heard an explanation once from Rabbi Lev Hyman Zatzal. He said, when's the last time Yitzchak was involved or saw a hand on a foot? It was his, what? At the Akedah, very good. That means when Yitzchak was, you know how they used to bind a korban? They would take a sheep in the base of Mikdash. You didn't bind the sheep like this. The two front paws and the two back, the feet. You bound it like this, hand on a foot. The right front paw on the left, what are they called? They're all called paws? I don't know, the right, what are they called by sheep? The right thing on the back paw, or whatever you call it. Yeah, the right one, and it's hand on foot. When Yitzchak was brought up as an Akedah, which is the ultimate form of service any human being has ever gotten. That's a very high, more than getting an aliyah, guys. Getting an aliyah in shul is nice. Being put on a mizbeach, on an altar, ready to be shechted, where you yourself are the human korban, that's a pretty high level of devotion. And when Avram Avinu bound up Yitzchak, how did he bind him up? He bound him up like a regular korban. How do you bind it up? A hand on the foot and a hand on the foot. So Yitzchak's association of a hand on a foot is a form of service of God. So when he hears that Yaakov and Esau are born with a hand on a foot, what does he hear in that? There's going to be a partnership over here. And it's a partnership of the highest level of serving Hashem is going to come from Yaakov and Esau. And that was Esau's potential. Esau, yeah, how do you like that? Good, right? Good, right? Not my idea, obviously, because it's good. But it was Esau had the potential. And what happens? Esau, that's why he's the man, he's a physical person. Esau's the guy who's out, we're going to see in a second, he's out in the field at hunting. That could be used, any energy, any tchuna, any predisposition that a person has could be used positive and negative. Yaakov was going to be the Torah learner. Esau was going to be the man of the world who supports the Torah learner, which to a certain level is a bigger challenge, because you gotta deal with the physical material world and maintain your spiritual level. To sit in the base medrash all day and learn Baba Kama and daven, that you have a certain advantage over there. You're not out there dealing with the people of the world. So Esau has that potential in this partnership with Yaakov. You understand? And where it happens, Esau blows it. Esau messes up because it's a challenge. Like anybody else could mess up. He messed up. Eventually, what happens? Where do we find that partnership? Where do we find that partnership? In Judaism. Yisachar and Zvulun. Yisachar and Zvulun. So you don't have Esau and Yaakov. You have Yisachar and Zvulun. Yisachar goes out there, the merchants, and Yisachar studies Torah, and Zvulun is the tribe that is a merchant. But that was originally going to be a Yaakov and Esau partnership. And not only you have it in Yisachar and Zvulun, gentlemen, where else do you have it? Not only Yisachar and Zvulun. You have a lot more than that, all over the place. Husbands and wives. A man who's learning Torah, his wife is a full partner. And what does she take care of? She takes care of the physical material. She takes care of the home. She takes care of, in many cases, she works. She works while the husband studies Torah. That's the same Yisachar Zvulun partnership. It's a full partnership. Husband and wife is a full partnership. So Esau had that potential. That's where Yitzchak says, oh, there's a good thing over here. A hand on a foot means there's going to be total devotion between the two of them. The two of them are going to be devoted to God in a partnership. Very intriguing idea, isn't it? Now, take a look at the next pasuk. Vayigdelu hane'orim. Vayhi Esav ish yodea tzayid ish sadeh. Esav was a hunter a man of the field. And according to Rashi, he was a hunter. He was, what do you call it? Esau was out there. I'm going to show you a Rashi in a second. V'Yakov ish tam Yoshev Aholim. Yaakov was, how does he translate a wholesome man dwelling in a tent. Now, take a look at Rashi. This is very, very interesting, telling how our perspective and the Torah's perspective are sometimes at odds. That's why we need to learn Torah to get the facts straight. All the facts of life, we got to get them straight from the Torah. Take a look at Rashi. Top line of the left column of Rashi on page 126. Yodea Tzayid. What does that mean? Lotzud ularamos es aviv befiv. He would hunt his father with his mouth. He would hunt and deceive his father with his mouth. Vishalo, he asked him all sorts of frum questions. Abba, heyach me'asrin es hamelach. How do you tithe salt? Ooh, he's so frum. Tithing salt. You don't have to tithe salt. Ve'es hateven, straw. How do you tithe straw? You don't have to do that. He's so machmir. He's so frum. He throws stones at cars on Tuesdays. That's how religious he is. Right? Kosover aviv shu bedaktek b'mitzvos. His father thought he's very, very meticulous in his observance. Then it says like this: Ish sadeh. He's a man of the field. Look at Rashi's words. I mean, you're going to have to explain this to me, gentlemen. Imagine a guy who's out running around hunting. You got one guy running around all day hunting, and you have another guy who's sitting in the library. Okay, who's the man of action and activity? The hunter. Take a look at Rashi. Ish sadeh kimashma'o. Adam batel, a man who is idle. I don't look too idle to me. Chasing around, shooting and running. You know, you're shooting a deer and you're running away from tigers. I don't look too idle to me. Adam batel vitzode bekashto chayazos, and he's hunting animals and birds. And he's called, he's idle. He's an idler. He's a ne'er-do-well. You know, he's not doing anything productive. He's out there running around, working up a sweat. Tam, Yaakov is an ish tam. Yoshev Ohr, sitting in the tents. Which tents? What does it mean he's sitting in the tents? The tents of Torah. Eino baki b'chol libo kein piv. Misha eino chorif l'ramos koritam. Somebody who's not sharp. Somebody who's not got the savvy to know how to deceive other people. He's called a tam. Is Yaakov a tam? Look at what the Torah calls Yaakov. He's not called a tam. What's he called? Ishtam. He's not just a tam. A tam is like a simpleton. He's an ishtam. An ish means he's a guy he's a man in control of his tamness. Because we're going to see that Yaakov Avinu mixes it up with everybody. He deceives Esau, he deceives Yitzchak, he deceives Esau, he deceives Lavan. Yaakov's involved. He's one of the best deceivers in history. So he's not quite a tam. He's an ishtam. That means by nature, Yaakov is a wholesome person. By nature, Yaakov. But if I got to do it, if you push me, you know, there's a story about the red. They always think that frum people are a bunch of turtles in a shell. We don't know what's going on in the world. We could be, you know, just walk all over us. So they had a what do you call it? They had there was this rabbi who went fundraising. So he goes to this guy. He goes to this guy to collect some money for his yeshiva or whatever it was. This guy didn't think much of religious people, so he decided to have some fun at the rabbi's expense. So he gave him a check for $50,000. So the rabbi was thrilled. And the guy's like, watch this. Then the rabbi thrilled. He goes to the bank to cash the check. But the guy's only got $48,000 in his account. Can't cash the check. They said, sorry, there's not enough money in the account. So the rabbi took $2,000 out of his pocket, deposited into the guy's account, then he cashed a check for $50,000. Want a mess? You think whether that's halachically permissible or not is not clear, right? If you know. But at the end of the day, don't what do you call it? The front people can handle themselves. Don't what do you call it? The Panovich Rav was once apparently on a subway. The Panovich Rav was in New York and he was on a subway, and some guys, some of the locals, started taking an interest in him, and they were starting to, and he saw that this is problematic. So they said to the Panovich Rav, where are you going? Where are you going? So he named the neighborhood that he was going to, which was somewhere down the line. And then as the train stopped, so that got them to think that they've got time to wait till he gets off the train, and then they'll mug him. Right? And all of a sudden the train stopped before that, and at the last second, the Panovich Rav jumped out of the train, the doors closed, and he just kind of waved at them, waved goodbye as they went. So, an ish tam means, we can mix it up with you. We're not a bunch of turtles in a shell. But look at the next Rashi. Yoshev aholim olo shel sheva olo sheva. Sam, can I open the door? Yeah. It's a tough weather, gentlemen. Because window, you guys, I open the window, it's going to be cold. You guys are going to kvetch. Right, so we got to find some sort of compromise. Look, you're wearing a coat, parkas. What's with you guys? Look at me, bring it on. So what does it mean that Esau thinks that? What does it mean that Esau is a man of the field, Yaakov is a man of the tents? So the commentaries say that first of all, Esau was hunting women. He was murdering people. He was killing people for his first 40 years. He was not doing well. He had bad mitos, Jake. Yeah, bad mitos. And he was he was no good. He went off. Esau went off. Up until the first 13 years, you couldn't tell the difference. And then he went off. Esau went his own way. And again, don't get confused. Esau had free choice. And if he would have been good, he could have been very, very, very good. Yaakov has free choice too. His free choice is a prerequisite to anything. Otherwise, if you're born, I told you, if you're born a tiger, so you're a tiger. So what can you do? So you rip deer apart. That's not your fault. But if you're born a human being, you have to get yourself under control. What does it mean he's a man of the field? What's the difference between a field and a tent? A field, what's that? You're outside. You're outside. No boundaries. You live your life without boundaries. Ish Sada doesn't just mean where he is physically, where he is as a location. Ish Sada is an attitude. The world is a playground. And I have no limitations on myself. I could do anything I want, when I want, how I want, with I want. Everything's open. Ish Tam Yoshev Oli means he's living with self-control. He's living in a tent. He's living a life of self-control. There are walls, there are boundaries, and that's what Judaism is. Judaism is self-control. I told you, I think Rabbi Dovid Povarsky was one of the Rosh Yeshivas of the Panovich Yeshiva. And he once broke his elbow or his shoulder, something he broke. He went to the doctor, and the doctor said that they're going to have to put a cast on him. He said, I don't want a cast. For whatever reason, they didn't want to have a cast, but they aren't putting a cast. So the doctor said, well, it's a problem because you can't move your arm. Your arm has to be immobilized. So Dovid Povarsky, one of the three Rosh Yeshivas of Panovich, along with Rav Shach Zatzal and Rav Shmuel Rozovsky. And the doctor said to me, you can't move your arm. He said, I won't move my arm. He says, no, I mean all day you have to keep your arm immobilized. He says, I won't move my arm. The doctor looked at him and says, yeah, but Rabbi, when you're sleeping, you also can't move your arm. He says, I won't move my arm when I sleep. It's a big deal. To us, that sounds like science fiction. Because when we sleep, sleeping is an activity to be practiced and perfected. You get into bed and you got to stretch and make sure you touch every corner of the bed. There are people who go to sleep in one position and actually wake up in that same position. Some of us, we go to sleep and wake up in a different room, right? You wake up, how did I get here? What am I doing here? Yeah, there are actually, people you could actually practice controlled sleeping. The halacha says a man's not supposed to sleep on his stomach, he's not sleep on his back. What if you're used to that? So you start sleeping on your side, and you actually get used to it. And you train yourself to sleep on your side. Not only that, you're supposed to sleep on your left side, and towards morning, you shift over to the right side. Now, you don't have to set an alarm clock. I'm up in 15 minutes, change to the right, make sure, get both sides of the toast done. You don't have to do. You don't have to, but I want to tell you something. I saw this with my own eyes. I went to Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal, and he was learning in the Kolo Chazonish. He was learning in the Kolo. And, we're waiting to get a bracha from Reb Chaim. And it was about, I remember it was 1 o'clock was Mincha. Now, Reb Chaim at the time slept at night. I think he slept a grand total of about 2 hours a night. And once in a while in the call, he would put his head down. So Reb Chaim had a shtender. I remember the shtender at a table. He was like this. And we're all waiting quiet. Reb Chaim was like this. And then, right before, about 30 seconds before Mincha, he did like this. And as soon as he shifted from the left arm to the right arm, there was a koilel guy standing next to me, and the guy looks at me and goes, he went from the left to the right. Absolute self-control. So there is a concept of, that's what Ishtam Yoshev Oholin. You're sitting in a tent, and the tent is self-control. By the way, there was a couple that couple didn't have children for many years. And they did some tests. There's all sorts of tests to see. So they went to the doctor, and a woman's doctor. Their husband escorted his wife, and he was in the waiting room. They're getting the test results now. So the wife went in to speak to the doctor, and the doctor said the husband's in the waiting room. And the doctor looks over the papers, and he says to his wife, based on the results, you're never going to have children. Okay. She walks out into the waiting room. I said, what did the doctor say? She looked at her and she said, everything's going to be okay. That's what she said. She didn't want to get her husband upset. The couple ended up with about 9 kids, by the way. He was a Rosh Yeshiva in America. So sometimes a woman could walk out and understandably burst into tears and tell her husband we're devastated. That's natural. That's normal. There are people who live with a heightened level of self-control. There's the absolute self-control. They're living within the walls of Torah. There was another, I'll just tell you one other incident. There was a rabbi named Shraya Deblitsky. He was nifter about 5 years ago. He was living in Bnei Brak. And, on Yontif, you're allowed to kindle a fire. Shabbos, you can't. You could take a fire from an existing fire. So he was walking from one room to another, I think with a candle or a match, or whatever it was. He was walking with a flame. And at a certain point, a piece of the flame, the wick, the burning wick, fell off and fell onto his hand. The burning wick, it was still burning. Now, what would you do if a piece of wick fell onto your hand? Burning wick, what would you do? The first thing is, you kind of like that. What was his reaction? He did like this. It fell off, he did like this to make sure his hand doesn't move. Because if you flick it off, then you extinguish it. And you're not allowed to extinguish on Yontif. You could carry a flame, but you can't extinguish. So you have two instantaneous possible reactions. There's one reaction which is, get the fire off my hand. It's burning and it hurts. And the other one is, I can't allow Yontif. I can't desecrate Yontif, even whether intentionally or otherwise. I'm not allowed to desecrate Yontif. That's all a result of self-control. It's just practice and self-control of a whole religion and a whole system. You understand? That's what Esau is. That's what Yaakov is. Esau is out in the field. Everything is hefker. Everything's open. Everything's available. That's the difference in the Jew and the Jew and the non-Jew. Okay. So then, the next pasuk. Vayehav Yitzchak es Esau. Yitzchak loves Esau. Kitzayid befiv, because he put food in his mouth. That means Esau went out hunting. Pasuk 28, and he put food in Yitzchak's mouth. V'Rivka oheves es Yaakov. Rivka loved Yaakov. Now, if you'll notice that there's a different form of the word vayehav. What does vayehav sound like? In the reflexive form. How does the Art Scroll translate it? Esau loved. Isaac loved Esau, but I think in English he lovified. There's no word like that in English, but now there is. Right? He forced, Vayehav almost sound like he forced himself to love Esau. That means Yitzchak understood what Esau was, and he also understood that the only way I'm going to keep him close, according to this approach, the other approach is he's out and out deceived. But according to this approach, Yitzchak is, kid's struggling with his Yiddishkeit. I got to show him that he's welcome and he's accepted and everything within limits, with certain limitations. But I'll show him, and that's why the Kitzayid Befiv, he was hunting his father. Right? Rashi said he hunted him with these. Other commentaries say, no, Yitzchak was hunting Esau. Yitzchak was playing the game. It was like a double agent. You think you're fooling me. I'll play along with you, but I'm really fooling you that you think you're fooling me. So you think you're fooling me. I'm going to show you that, yeah, you are fooling me, but I know you're not fooling me because I'm really fooling you. Very Jewish. And so that's the tzad b'fiv. Now, Rivka sees through the whole thing. Why? Very logical. Why does Rivka see through this?
She raised the kid.
What, good?
So she knows everything about that child.
Oh, yeah, what else?
She's seen the kid.
Yeah, what else has she seen?
Yaakov.
Yeah, what else has she seen? She got a brother named Lavan. When you've been locked in the closet by your brother and he makes hissing and barking sounds, and all sorts of torment, and you know what a deceiver and what a liar and a shyster he is. So then you can see through everybody. You develop an eye for it. So V'rivko heves es Yaakov. Okay, so that's the question I asked you last time. This is going to be a fundamental question. Why didn't Rivka go? If there seems to be some sort of difference of approach here, why didn't Rivka tell Yitzchak? Why didn't she just like, Yitzchak, listen, can we talk for a second? Most of the time, it's going to cost you money. When your wife says, can we talk? No. I don't speak that language. Yeah, can we talk? Why didn't Rivka call Yitzchak and say, Yitzchak, listen, you're misreading. You got to misread over here. I'm telling you, I see what's going on. I see what Esau. I spoke to the teachers. I know why didn't Rivka just discuss it? Why didn't she talk to Yitzchak about it? Why? And not only that, what's this going to lead to later on? What's it going to lead to, all of this? The brachas, the blessings. And how is the blessing going to be taken? The masquerade, you put him in a costume, go in and deceive the blind father by pretending you're somebody who you're not. Why do you have to resort to all that? Why didn't you have to resort? Why didn't Rivka just go and get it out in the open with Yitzchak right away? So there are two approaches here. Rivka knows that one day there's going to be a bracha. Yitzchak's going to give a bracha. Brachas apparently are a big thing in Torah because we see brachas all the time. People are fighting for Yitzchak is the bracha, Yaakov gives a bracha. Everybody's giving brachas. Moshe Rabbeinu gives a bracha to Klal. There's a potency to the bracha. To the degree, what's the highest level of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We have to be very careful about this, about understanding it. What's the highest level? Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. There you go. Yeah, that's the one we all like. Yeah, Yom Kippur I'm not so much into. But Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, that's a good, yeah. Ivdu es Hashem, what is simcha? Whatever simcha doesn't mean getting on a car, jumping on a trampoline with a bottle of vodka. That's not simcha. Simcha means a certain upbeat energy in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what simcha is. Even though it's Hashem b'simcha, that's a highest level, that we should be happy about what we're doing. No different than if you do your mother a favor. Your mother wants you to see you do it happily. That's different when you do the dishes for your mother, and you just kind of do them, and you do it because, Mom, for you, yeah. I can't wait to do those dishes. That's different. And serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha is the highest level. What simcha is it needs a definition. But that's the highest level. Rivka knows that if Yitzchak finds out what Esau really is, the bracha that eventually he's going to give to Yaakov is not going to be with the same potency. The bracha that he gives to Yaakov is not going to be with the same potency, because it's not going to be coming from a place of simcha. If he's got that pain in his heart that Esau's a renegade, so then the bracha that he gives to Yaakov is not going to come from the same level, and therefore she doesn't want Yitzchak to know about it. That's one approach. The other approach is, you remember when she lowered herself off the camel? When she first met Yitzchak, she lowered herself off the camel. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Last week's Parsha? And what did we say? She sees this man. Yitzchak is very, very tall, imposing, good-looking, very, very impressive looking. And Rivka, at that moment, remember we said, she was struck with an awe of Yitzchak. Maybe the age difference matters too. After all, there's a 37-year age difference. But she's struck with awe. She's in awe of Yitzchak. And she never gets past, according to the Emek Dover, she never gets past that awe. She won't contradict her husband. Ladies, this is an important lesson. She will never contradict her husband. And Rivka, even when it comes to here, Rivka doesn't want to contradict Yitzchak, even though his approach is wrong. So there are different approaches among the commentary exactly why. But at the end of the day, that seems to be the difference in approach between Yitzchak and Rivka. Now, Yaakov starts making some Vayazed Yaakov Nazid. Yaakov is making, they always translate as lentils. Vayavo Esav min asad v'oyev. Esav comes in tired. The commentaries say, where was he out? He was out in the field. Rashi says he was out in the field being immoral and killing people. Takes up a lot of energy. He came in tired. Boy, I had a rough day today, man. Had to chase down 2 bars and had to kill somebody with a bar stool. That's rough. Broke a bottle of booze over somebody's head, killed him too. And then he comes in, he's hungry. And this is the day the Avram Avinu died. And Yaakov is making lentils because that's the food you feed mourners. Yitzchak is sitting Shiva for Avram Avinu. And Esav comes in and he's tired. And unfortunately to say, it's not just Esav who's tired. All people who live in pursuit of this world, the pleasures of this world, you end up tired. You're washed out. I once had a guy here, he told me he's from England. So businessmen in London, you got these businessmen, and I think I either read or I saw it. They a lot of these guys go out. They work in corporations, companies, then they go out and they drink their lunch. They go out and have a few beers for lunch. Some of them have quite a few beers for lunch, and they drink. So I said to this guy, I don't understand. The guy goes out, he gets soused at lunch. How's he supposed to work the rest of the day? So the guy said to me, well, that's what cocaine is for. The guy said to me, you need a pickup. Well, that's a great diet, beer and cocaine. Life expectancy, none. You end up washed out. You end up burnt out. That's the Esavs of the world. What do they call it? You work hard, play hard. You work hard, play hard, and die early. That's the Esavs of the world. And you're washed out. And then you get down the line and you look like Mick Jagger. You ever see what these guys look like? Looks like somebody sucked the life out of them. It's just a body. These guys look like just a bag of body wandering the streets. But they look like they're dead. Their soul hasn't left them yet. That's all. They look like a ghost. What do you say?
Downstairs.
He's downstairs. Okay, guys, I got to run. So we'll see you tomorrow, Mirza Hashem, at this time.